Hey, this is Marcus Washington, MTC Media. I thought this was the perfect place, an outdoor court, to talk about Slam Magazine and its influence on how sports are covered today. Great article in The Athletic who talks about the Slam's influence and how it came up and the rise of people like Scoop Jackson and how he became a household name. And for me, growing up in that era where you saw a lot of changes on TV, you saw a lot of changes on how information was starting to be disseminated in the wee life of internet and social media and message boards and all those things that existed then before it was as mature as it was now. Slam Magazine saw that there was an underappreciated consumer base, and it was that 18 to 34. The ones that wanted to get away from traditional media telling us what we wanted for consumption as opposed to asking us what we wanted. And what we wanted was we wanted to hear from the athlete more. We didn't need the limited voice that the traditional media had then. That was very one way. There wanted to be a diversity in the voices. They wanted to hear from the athletes. They wanted to hear the questions that they would like to know the answer to. They wanted to be quit being told, well, you're too dumb to understand. You need us to tell you how this is done. And no, they didn't. It's part of the reason why, in particular with the sports media, that industry is hanging on by pennies and nickels. It's because you still wanted to lecture a set of people that did not want your biases, who did not see you as the gatekeeper of morality and integrity and character from your singular voice that existed in the traditional media then. Slam took all the chances at saying there's another way, just like the Source, but even better, because the Source did it placated a community that was starved to have a magazine cover and to cover hip hop from a hip hop point of view. Slam told us, you know what? Not only am I going to cover this in a way that an underserved consumer community wants it to be covered, but you're going to find out that there are more people out there that want it to be covered this way. And as that generation gets older, the following generations will have that in their heads of, this is how we want to cover sports now. You don't believe me? Look at the NBA. Look at how many former players have podcasts that are blowing up. Sitting on the sofa, talking casually, letting the athlete have his own voice, asking the questions that people want to have answered, not the questions that you tell people you should want to have answered because I want to show that I'm smarter than everyone else. No one cares about that. And it's why it's successful. Fast forward, there is a local college who had two of their players interviewed in sofas, talking and chatting it up, two-way conversation, casual. Where do you think they got that from? All of those cameras you see on the baseline at all these big-time AAU tournaments, where did you think that came from? That comes from Slam saying it's okay that we want to cover the game this way because we know there is a continuously growing user base that this is what content they want, which is why you see so much. And they get those relationships with those players when they're in high school. And those relationships continue to grow as the player's career grows. And now you're getting more things in depth. You get more things from the player voices. You get more content that people today want. Not from you, but with you assisting in those people hearing that voice that they want to hear, which is directly from the athlete. That started with Slam. That started with Iverson being on the cover. You remember in the article, it brings it up, the idea of interviewing Iverson, putting him on the cover when he wasn't a professional yet. He was at Georgetown. And how big of a deal that was then. And now we see it all the time. So there's this thing for those who like comic strips, and you know, I'm going to, sorry for those who don't, but there was an episode of Batman that I think is very prevalent here. It said, did Batman create the criminals, or did the criminals create Batman? And it's like that with the traditional media. For as much as you guys hate that Slam and those type of magazines have grown into how we consumption now, and they were at the incubator, and they're the ones who had to fight to get media credentials and stuff like that because they weren't accepted as traditional media and they weren't taken seriously. Did the traditional media's inability to actually placate what people wanted because those people didn't count, and then when you say they count, oh well, they're stupid, they don't know what they want. Did you create the slams? Did you create our current environment? Because it seems to me that you ignored for years a community that was begging to have content that consumed them, the content that they wanted, and you told them that they weren't smart enough to know what they want. And now you cry because now websites, the slams, the everything, they're all over the place now. And a lot of times they are giving content that people want more than a quote unquote traditional media. But think about it. Did you create it? Did you make Slam Magazine and everything that's come after that a necessity because you wanted to ignore? Good question. This probably won't be answered, but there's no turning back the clock. And for people like me and the consumers of Slam and The Source and all those other magazines that have led to what we have today, this is a thank you piece. Thank you very much. This is Marcus Washington, MTC Media.